Today I'm going to be talking about the food system, how it really works, the link between our food system, our health, the environment, and our household waste, and why a lot of the challenges within each of those aspects can be solved with the same simple solution. My name is Roxanne McLean. I am the owner and creator of Founder Foods, a dedicated whole food store that's opened up at 2 Village Road in Kloof, Durban. I spent years working in the food industry as a food ingredients buyer for big manufacturing companies. I love food, but very specific kind of food, whole foods. Whole foods are foods with no or minimal processing and no unnecessary preservatives or additives. They are simple foods, as close to their natural state as possible. After years working in the food industry, I strongly believe whole foods are more than just food. They are the key to transforming our world. Here's why. The food system, what we eat and how it's prepared, has arguably the biggest impact on both our planet and the way that we live our daily lives. It defines our health and our well-being, how we interact with our families and communities, and the general state of our environment. Over the last few decades, our food system has got very, very complicated. What do I mean by this? So when we think about our food system and the route and the path that our food takes, we generally think of a chain of events that looks something like this. A neat path that takes our food from the farm to a factory or packing house and then onto the store before it ends up in our cupboards at home. This isn't entirely true. The route our food system travels looks more like this. Our food system is highly complex, with many, many, many steps in the chain, and therein lies the cause of many of our problems. Problem number 1 is that our food chain is very, very, very long. What this means is that our food takes a really long time to get from what it originally was through the system onto the shelf and into our cupboards. Not only that, through the process, it will generally go through different temperatures, different altitudes, and different areas and geographies. Now, the problem with this is that shelf life is a constant battle. You need to have something that lasts long enough to get through the system, which means you need to take out the elements of a product that makes it spoil quickly, and you need to add in things that preserve it, like preservatives. You also need to be aware of how the products change when they go over different temperatures and different altitudes, and hence you might need to add in some stabilizers and emulsifiers. All these things facilitate the move of our food through the supply chain or through the system that we've created, and don't necessarily add value to the consumer at the end of the day. Problem number 2. Problem number 2 is that every process step that our food flows through requires resources. Each time it goes through a different process step, it has to be warehoused, it has to be distributed, it has to be repacked, it has to be transported. It requires resources and it creates waste. It's estimated around 40% of all food produced is wasted, even before it gets to household level. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the UN lists inefficiencies in our food system and lack of resilience as one of the key threats to our food in future. Problem number 3. Our food is handled a lot through this very long, complicated system. The more our food is handled, the more there is risk for contamination and quality risks. The more there is risk for contamination and quality risks, the more steps you need to add in and the more additives you need to put in to control those quality risks. Problem number 4 is that within our food system, you have many, many, many people, and you have many different companies operating within that food system. It presents 2 problems. So in order for a food system or any system where there are lots of different players in the market, in order for that to work effectively, you need players at every level that are operating at a similar size of production and a similar size of use at the same kind of quality. So ideally, you need small players who can then supply small players at the next level at a similar quality, and bigger players who can supply bigger players at a similar level of quality. You should get what looks like a nice little neat funnel, with small going to small, with going to small, and big going to big, going to big. Okay. But South Africa, like many countries, actually most countries in the world, we don't have a nice little neat little funnel with equal amounts of smaller players and bigger players at each step in the industry. Ours looks more like an hourglass, where you've got a huge group of producers at the bottom and a big agricultural system, and then it hourglasses into a smaller number of processors and manufacturers and retailers, and then out again to your consumers. What that means is that your smaller producers essentially don't have much of a market, and they really struggle to get their products into the system. Your bigger producers are limited because they can only source from those big enough to be able to supply them, and they can only supply those big enough to accept their products. So this creates a bit of a challenge. The other challenge is that your producers and your consumers are very far removed. There are many steps in the process chain between producers and consumers. What that essentially results in is that your consumers have very little influence over how your food is produced. The problems seem overwhelming. So what is it that we can do to alleviate some of these issues? And it doesn't actually matter whether your key objective is to improve your health and eat foods with less processing and less additives, or whether your objective is to improve your environmental impact and reduce your resource consumption overall, or whether your main objective is to reduce your household waste that you produce. The solution is all really the same thing. We have to shorten the food system. We have to go back to sourcing and eating simple whole foods that are sourced as directly from the producers as possible. Once we go back to eating whole foods that are sourced more direct from the producers, we get a product that is healthier for us, with less handling and contamination risk, and with less waste. And it also opens up the economy to include more smaller producers. This is the concept that Founder Foods is built on. We strongly believe that whole foods are more than just food. They are the key to transforming our world. If you want more information, you can hop onto our website at www.founderfoods.co.za, or you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you're in the Durban area, you can pop into our store at 2 Village Road in Kloof to see our range of beautiful whole foods and come and chat. Hope to see you in store soon. Bye.